According to the Brewers Association, Americans spend approximately $100 billion on beer each year. Here at the Black Forest Brewhouse in Farmingdale, New York, brewmaster Joe Hayes gives us a first-hand look of the brew process.
So all beer types are basically made from 4 ingredients, which would be a malt, which generally is barley, hops, water, and yeast. So the whole basis of a brew day is basically to take the starches that are inherent in the grain and convert those into sugars by using a temperature controlled water that is going to start an enzyme process that actually starts that conversion. So basically we take malt, bring it over this kettle here, top to bottom is one vessel. We bring milled malt over, add it to temperature controlled water, and it will sit for about 60 to 75 minutes actually, by which it's just allowing the water to get into the kernels and start the conversion of starches to sugar. We are a German themed brew house. A lot of the beers we make are German. So we actually do employ some old brewing techniques from Germany that a lot of places don't today. We use what's called a decoction mash. So by that, when you have you're going to run the different mash through different temperatures. The first one just to get that starch to sugar conversion happening. Then you want to stop all the process, so you're going to raise it. The higher you go in temperatures, the faster those processes happen. But you're also at the risk of shutting down certain enzymes. When you go for the temperature, a lot of American breweries just have a direct fire. So the heat comes right onto the kettle, turns get your temperature conversion going just by direct heat. We actually pull ours off, we decoct a portion of the mash into another vessel, heat up just a third of the mash, add it back to the full mash, and that's how we get our temperature changes. So it's actually through a decocting process. So basically you mash, get the starches to sugars. At that point now you have like a very oatmeal-y kind of consistency of a mash made, and you want to separate the water that's in there, now called wort, it's just sugar-rich water, off of that grain. So this vessel is actually 2 vessels. The top one has a stainless steel false bottom in it, so it's just perforated and allows the grain to stay behind and the wort to be collected. So basically through gravity it just starts pulling back into the kettle. This is the only vessel with heat, leaving the grain behind, and the sugar-rich water rolls over into there. Each style is defined, I guess, by a couple of characteristics, either hoppiness or alcohol levels. So the amount of wort that we collect will dictate later somewhat the alcohol level. The less you would collect and just let the grain supply the sugar that you made in a small amount would be more concentrated. The more you water it down, the less alcohol you're potentially going to make. So you collect to a certain volume in the kettle, and then you begin heating it. We get that to a boil. When the wort begins to boil, that is when the hops go in. That extracts a bitter compound out of the hops and the boiling wort, just kind of offsetting the sweetness that's inherently in the wort itself. Again, that is another step that defines a style. Like our Pilsner is very hoppy, whereas our Amber is not. So the amount of hops that go in and at the times at which they go in at is going to help define the beer. At that point, we boil for about 60 minutes, which is just kind of a sterilization step as well as for the hops. We want to separate as much of the hop solids that have come out in the boil. So we have a whirlpool. This bottom half is the whirlpool. The wort comes in tangentially from the side, just spins it into a whirlpool, allowing the hop solids and any proteins that have come out in solution during the boil to kind of form a cone. So it's just a clarification step. At that point, we just cool the wort down and get it ready for the yeast to go back in the back for the fermenters.
During the final step of the brewing process, yeast breaks down the sugar into alcohol and leaves the beer naturally carbonated. Now the beer is ready to be served.